Up next, we are going to be talking about the metaverse, virtual world meets real life. Who here knows what the metaverse is? Presumably some of you, right? Aren't you all tech experts and industry leaders? Okay, like 3 people have raised their hands. So the rest of you get to find out with me. We have an excellent panel here. Some companies you've probably heard of, like Meta, some countries that are working on more niche applications. This panel also has the distinction of having the panelist who I believe has traveled the furthest today, all the way from Austin, Texas. So please give them all a big, warm welcome here to the main stage. Welcome the Metaverse panel. Hi, guys. It's great to have you here.
Howdy.
Hello.
I'm guessing we didn't plan this, but like the women in floral dresses, guys in black shirts, it's a look. Did you guys talk about this in advance?
We did not talk about that.
Oh no, it was just...
The metaverse is just that
Exactly.
awesome. Let me briefly introduce you, and I'm going to give you guys each a minute, I think, to just run us through like who you are, what are you doing, but really just a minute, okay? Let's start with you, Callan, because you have come the furthest, all the way from Austin, Texas. Thanks for being here. Tell us about yourself.
Well, thank you, Sarah. It's great to be here. My name is Callan Carpenter. I work for Unity, world's leading game and mobile development platform. I run the Digital Twin Solutions team. That is, we do the professional services implementing digital twin and metaverse type technology for industrial customers.
All right, sounds good. Our next guest is from a company I don't think I've ever heard of. Meta, what is that? Tell us, Nastasia, what are you doing there?
Hi, Nastasia. I'm Economic Policy Manager at Meta, here based in Berlin. We renamed our company from Facebook to Meta last year, signaling a new direction that we're focusing on the metaverse. And among my tasks are to explain the metaverse to policymakers in Germany so that they can better understand it and we can start a conversation about this early. Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, Markus, introduce yourself.
Yes, hello. My name is Markus Poyler. I'm from NEXR Technologies. NEXR stands for Next Extended Realities, and we master in creating lifelike avatars to be used in the metaverse, of course, but also in business cases which are really very much related to it. We also create virtual worlds and virtual experiences. We're creating virtual concert places. We have a virtual production stage here in Berlin, and which does the motion capturing, and so we can actually offer a lot of metaverse enabling technologies from out inside here in Berlin.
And Ioulia.
Hi, so I'm Ioulia, and I'm the CEO of AnotherWorld VR and the CTO of Proof of Taste. AnotherWorld VR is a game development studio from Berlin. Like some might know us, the gamers among you might know us from Cobalt or Pig and Peak VR, or from our B2B projects like the VR runway show for Balenciaga for Spring 21. And with Proof of Taste, we're developing right now a music verse. I'm choosing not to say metaverse, that is inspired by Berlin Underground, where you can become a DJ and perform together with other performers or DJs worldwide in front of a multinational audience.
Ah, that sounds very cool. Okay, guys, I polled the audience before you came out and asked who knew what the metaverse was, and shockingly, not a lot of hands went up. Now, I don't know if that's the afternoon melees setting in, we're getting towards 4 o'clock, or if they just don't know. So one of you, volunteer. I feel like we have to ask the Meta representative, what is the metaverse? Give us the nutshell definition.
Better be good. First of all, I think when you hear the term metaverse, you have this dystopic vision of being rocket shipped to another very strange universe with some weird big goggles on your face, immersed in another reality. That's not it. I'm happy to share with you. Essentially, it's just the next step of technology and the evolution of the internet. The idea is to seamlessly intertwine the physical with the digital world. So you will have this essential feeling of being physically present with someone, even though they are only digitally with you in the same room. But every person and every company you speak to will have their own vision of the metaverse because, yeah, it's huge.
It's huge. Do any of the other panelists want to weigh in with a slightly different vision, or can we all accept that as a working definition? How do we feel about that?
I think a metaverse is something like meta means self-referential, right? Like, so metaverse refers to our life and communication just in general. And I think metaverse can be applied to anything. Twitter is a metaverse. Roblox is a metaverse. Anything where people communicate digitally or virtually is a metaverse.
Callan?
I think from our point of view, we agree that it is just the next evolution of the internet, but it's a powerful evolution. It is bringing the virtual world and the real world much more closely aligned than before. And for us, there's certain characteristics. It's real time, it's mostly interactive, it's mostly 3D, it's mostly persistent, and it's mostly social. But it isn't necessarily all those things all the time.
Okay, Markus, anything to add, or has it all been said?
Yeah, actually I want to add, it's the metaverse is, many think about the metaverse just about, it's basically virtual reality or augmented reality, but I think it's even more, it's not just that, and it's something that's why we always say to our customers, well, the metaverse is not something in the future, it's already here today, because you can use metaverse technologies already today of creating things and bringing the virtual and the digital world together. So it can only be on your phone as well, or on your laptop, on your desktop device. It doesn't have to be virtual reality only. So it's really everything which is virtual connected to the physical world.
Now this transitions us seamlessly into my next question, which is, what elements of the metaverse actually exist? You mentioned Twitter as one example, but I think classically a lot of us do think of that immersive experience. And yet, whenever I try out these metaverse things, often they're underwhelming. Am I wrong? Are we there yet? What elements are there and what still needs to happen?
Oh, you're absolutely right. Like right now, unfortunately, metaverse and the term is so bloated, but there is not a lot of substance. I'm sorry to be that blunt. So right now, metaverses are still in development, and we have a little bubble in here that we're following and trying to try out everything with the metaverse, or put the word metaverse on everything that we're developing right now. However, the examples are still underwhelming, absolutely. So for a metaverse that would, let's say, simulate virtual communication, where you would have functioning communication in virtual reality or digital reality, that's going to still take some time. However, I think, and this is also always important to say, is that it is never going to replace our real life interaction and real life communication.
That's good news to someone like me who hates using Zoom and found that during the pandemic just the worst part. What's your vision of this, Nastasia?
I'd agree that it's just meant to enhance our current digital experiences. And I think two things that really need to be able to happen for it to get there is that the digital realm is perfectly encapsulated as the physical realm is, so that you can't really distinguish between the two. And then the second aspect is that your access to the metaverse, which will be through hardware, through a laptop, as we were saying, a watch, some goggles. Now, as you know, they're really clumsy and heavy and ugly, but they should be light and cool and look like Ray-Ban glasses soon.
And you're working on that.
So I think when you talk about it being disappointing, if you come at it from the perspective of Ready Player One, we're not there yet. We may never be there. But if you go back to this idea of it's the virtual world and the real world interacting, that happens in little ways all the time now. How many of us have a smart appliance at home, or my swimming pool lets me know when it needs to get filled up because I have a virtual representation of on my phone? That's a little piece of the metaverse there. So it doesn't have to be all the way to Ready Player One. It's going to be more than my smart swimming pool. There's a lot of room in between. And I think a lot of room to not be disappointed if we take that point of view on it.
Okay, all right, you've convinced me. So on which existing technologies does the metaverse build? And what needs to happen to get it to the place where it does wow someone like me? Is it better hardware, better software, everything?
I think it's both. It's always a combination of both. Like obviously, like what was already mentioned, that the hardware for now is very clunky. And I think the clunkiness is maybe like not even the biggest problem. The problem is the graphics. So for instance, right now the mobile VR headsets, like you have 2K and 2K, which is obviously too low of a resolution to make something seem like reality, because the graphics quality is so bad. And this is why also a lot of people feel a little motion sick from it, because of the graphic quality of the displays. And this all will be better, obviously, in a couple of years. However, the other point is software. So when it comes to software right now, it's a really, and we were discussing it backstage, it's such a complicated workload and work process to create avatars that are photorealistic, to create movements or even cloth simulation that looks photorealistic. So right now there are a lot of hurdles, and I think this is with everything that you're developing, there are first a lot of hurdles that you have to go through. And I think the whole community worldwide that works in the metaverse is actively searching for solutions, how to make it better, faster, and more inviting for a bigger audience.
I'd say, I mean, it's going to be built on AR and VR technology, obviously. Some things already enable us technically to have this feeling of presence, like 3D sound, which we have in our current Quest device. So you can have a meeting and you can hear that a person is next to you and a person is opposite you, which you can't currently do in Zoom. You can even have side whispering conversations.
Ooh, now that sounds good.
What you will be able to have with our next-gen Quest is eye contact, but we were discussing this backstage. It's extremely difficult to simulate eyes. I'm sure you will be able to expand more on that. And then the feeling of touch is also an area that we're exploring. We're researching these haptic gloves. So if you can imagine you're in a cafe and you put on your really cool Ray-Ban glasses with your computer screen in front of you, and you can actually, feel the keyboard under your hands as if it were really there. So, or hug someone. So that.
There's some good news, because there is technology today that is foundational. Connectivity, high bandwidth connectivity, is going to be really important for a metaverse experience, because you got to get all that imagery and all that experience mostly to mobile devices, probably, wearables, things like that. And that's the other good news, which is we're all carrying extremely capable mobile computing devices that will only get more powerful as time goes by. So from a hardware perspective, there's a lot of foundation there. I think a lot of it's in the software at the end of the day, where the challenges are going to be.
Markus, do you share that view?
Yeah, I think actually the key will be hardware. I mean, software is something that can be solved quickly, but hardware is, I think there's some greater nuts to crack. Because, in the end, it's all about, probably all of you have such a device in your pocket, right? And I grew up in the mobile phone industry as a content provider, and we were evolving our products with the hardware that was available, like monophonic ringtones in the beginning, up to those devices was only like 7 years. But this was like the breakthrough point, and I think we're still missing the iPhone moment for the hardware on the devices when it comes to virtual reality. I mean, the devices are getting better, but as you say, nobody wants to run around with those goggles for more than 40 minutes. It's impossible. So the better these devices get, then it's going to be a mass market, and everyone will have a device, right? If I would ask the question today, how many of you out here have a VR device? I would probably only see a couple of hands, right?
Should we try it?
Yeah. I think we should put it to the audience. So the question is, how many folks have a VR device, right? So hands up. Okay.
Awesome. Oh, that's awesome.
That's more than I expected.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's good, but it's not a mass market thing. So that's why I'm thinking it's very key on hardware to develop, easy to use. That's the task also of someone like Unity to make it easy to use. And I think one very important step also is interoperability, right? We discussed that earlier, because there's a lot of metaverses or worlds or things are currently being built, and all of these are walled gardens. You cannot move your avatar from one application to another, even though they are first things, but currently it's not possible, and maybe it's not even wanted. But I think it's very important that this happens, because otherwise, I need probably 10 avatars to be in all those worlds where I want to be, and I think that's not very user-friendly.
But there are actually a couple of solutions. For instance, Ready Player Me, like this is avatars that are very much open to any platform, and you can utilize them too. So this is also like a little bit in progress there. Sorry.
Maybe more broadly, it brings up a good point. We have to work together if the metaverse is ever going to be a desirable place for someone like me to go and spend my time voluntarily. How do you approach collaboration and balance that with the need to develop a proprietary product that's going to give you a market advantage? How are you guys thinking about this?
Well, I can tell you how Unity's thinking about it. It absolutely has to be an open platform. So we build digital twins. By the way, we've been talking about avatars and making them interoperable, but we're talking about a digital twin of a factory or a place, a building. That's a whole different interoperability problem, because the underlying data that used to represent this building may be very different from what's used to represent the airport, for example, or the car that you're going to get in to move between there. You got to have open standards. Today, most digital twin solutions are proprietary, they're closed, the data goes in and never comes back out again. And so we think it's got to be cloud-based, open APIs, and then you differentiate by just building better applications on those same APIs in the next guy.
I'd say where the Meta is definitely fully agrees that we need to be interoperable. That's part of our vision. We are only at the very beginning of that process, as we just discussed, where I think most of us are members of Kronos's Metaverse Standards Forum, which aims to create common standards and look at the technological hurdles there are for interop. But I think this is, and please correct me if I'm wrong, probably one of the first times that the industry has had to work together on such a complex thing. And you'll have to have interoperability of your avatars, of the things that you own, of your buildings, of your cars, of your clothes. The hardware has to be interoperable, and so does the software. So it's a big task.
And I think we've seen plenty of examples, Sarah, hundreds of examples, where having standards becomes a platform for innovation. Because there's a standard place to plug your solution into, you're free to go innovate. I don't know how many people out there remember the RCA jack in a stereo system, but the fact that there was a common way to hook together hi-fi equipment a long time ago meant that everyone could innovate and make better hi-fi equipment, but they would all be interoperable. You're right, the problem we're talking about is more complex, but conceptually, if we can solve it, going back to your question about how do we innovate, or how do we be competitive, we need that standard platform in order to innovate on top of it.
So what I'm hearing is openness is going to be key to push this forward, and that's a challenge for the industry,
it has to be.
for the innovators. Let's put on our thinking caps for a minute, looking to the future, when the hardware, software, and collaboration have taken us to the point where the metaverse is just a seamless part of our everyday lives. What industries is this going to be most relevant for? Who are we building this for?
I think it's not even industries. I think it's all about entertainment, content, and communication. So what also we're building right now is kind of a virtual social platform like TikTok, but just for music in the virtual world. So it is mainly for human exchange and for spending time together wherever it is, if it's in real life or if you guys are oceans apart, then in the metaverse. And I think the human factor, funnily, in this digital virtual space is the main one. And all industries where it's going to be important have to have this human factor. So even for industries that are heavily on manufacturing, I think the metaverse will be used for learning, for tutorials, for coaching. However, it would always need humans to be part of it.
When you say human factor, my layman's brain hears fun. It has to be fun. But if we're talking about digital twins of factories and industry solutions, does that have to be fun, or does it just have to save money and make processes more efficient?
It's got to be useful. It's got to actually solve a problem, and that's, I think, one of the problems that we have today with the digital twin industry is if you start with let me get you turned on to a digital twin and we'll go figure out what to do with it. You got to do the other way around. What is it you need to do, and let's see if the digital twin is the right tool for it there. But to your question about who's going to benefit, if we go back to our earlier statement that the metaverse is just the next evolution of the internet, well, everyone benefits from the internet. Now, different industries, different applications may get there sooner or later, but in the end, it's going to benefit everybody.
Markus, do you share that view?
Yeah, I think it's really about, as you said, and I'd really like to underline that, it's about solving problems, right? It's something that we cannot solve so good today or solve in a different way. For example, when you think about, I can take one thing that we do, because we're solving one of the problems of the fashion industry of high returns and overproduction, right? So we create an avatar, and you can take your avatar, try on virtual clothes, and you can actually do that before you buy the clothes. So you can see if things fit you, if you like it, and you also get the right size. That to me is a problem-solving thing that you can use, and there's tons of other examples, as you said, with education, right? If I have a new employee and he starts in a retail store, it's very time-consuming to actually get him educated, but he can try out at home already before he starts and get the first things done. And get his training. So there's a lot of things that can happen in the metaverse which make life better than it is today.
And I also have to add just one tiny point of, for instance, digital twins. Like, it's creating solutions, obviously. However, these solutions, because it's such a new field, are also fun to experience, because there is this factor of gamification there. Like, for instance, we created a lot of apps for Deutsche Bahn or for Siemens. And every time we showed it around, like the planners in this case, it was digital twin of a construction site, they had fun planning in 3D because it has like kind of this flair of a game there. So which is, I think, like always like this little fun factor is even there in serious work, which I think for me as a person from content to entertainment is very, very important.
We have a mapping, because we're a game company and an industry company. We map game concepts into industry concepts, much like you were just doing. So in the game world, it's multiplayer. In the industrial world, it's collaboration, right? In the game world, it's immersive. In the industrial world, I have visual contextualization of some problem I'm trying to solve. And so it absolutely, fun is an element of it. Engagement and immersion is an element. The difference is on the business side, it has to be more than entertaining. Ultimately, it has to solve a problem, as we said.
And ultimately, I mean, if we're looking at the workspace, it should improve our productivity when we work together digitally. So, I mean, we all had to work digitally for the past 2 years, and then we got back to our first in-person meeting and thought, oh, wow, that was so much easier. So imagine that you can actually have that digitally. Same with, education. You're able to retain information a lot more if you're immersed in something. Yeah. Imagine a child learning about the planets and actually seeing the galaxy before them rather than listening to a potentially boring teacher. Or, already now VR is being used heavily by the medical profession where there is a high risk to human life. In terms of practicing their operations, and it's already led to an improvement in 600% productivity in terms of being able to learn medical procedures. So there's a lot of potential.
So that all sounds wonderful. I'm here for that. I want to play devil's advocate for a moment and pose the question that people sometimes ask. Is it really a better future if we're just interacting with each other, with avatars of each other, and not going outside the house? A lot of people would say teenagers today spend too much time on social media. Should we really make these worlds more attractive, more alluring, more fun? Is that a good thing to do? Convince me.
I can start again. Like I see the metaverse and virtual reality always in addition to life. Like, before social media, there were books. Before books, there was theater or whatever. Like, there was always something that took away from our concentration, which was an entertainment piece. However, I think, and also coming right now from 2 years of the pandemic, I and my team are obviously only working digitally or in VR. However, I was so happy to see people again, to interact on stage, to talk. However, I still love to be in virtual reality. However, for me, it's the balance that makes it. And I think like we are not in danger that all of us just gonna, I don't know, like really dissolve in the metaverse, because we always need human interaction. However, the metaverse is the positivity where you can shopping events, to do shopping events with your friends from the US, or go to a party with your friends from China. And also I think like this kind of like connectivity through digitalization is also very good for the climate, obviously, where you don't have to go to a concert or the specific meeting over like across the ocean, but you can do it in VR and not on Zoom, where it feels so impersonal. However, if your avatar is right, if the other's avatar is right, and if you can see how you interact together, this is, I think, a great change and a great addition to our real lives.
I want to be conscious of the fact that we're coming to the end of the time and give each of you an opportunity to paint me a picture. What will the metaverse look like in 5 years? Not in 20 years, not when all the flashy bells, but 5 years. So that's 2027? Paint me a picture. Markus, why don't you start?
Yes, sure. So this is one of our vision, you know. We believe in a world, and we think it's not going to be, or I think it's not going to be very far out, where everyone actually will have his own avatar, doing things already today better than he does today. So it could be a lifelike avatar who looks like me, could be a Ready Player Me avatar, which is more like stylized. But I think this is a vision which is very, very near in 5 years. And like everyone will also have his goggles if you guys are getting quicker with developing
no
stuff,
pressure.
or others. So that's where I think we are going to be.
Okay, so that's a vote for avatars and goggles in 5 years. Let's hold him accountable in 5 years. We'll all call up Markus at NEXR and tell him you were right or you were wrong.
I'll be here as my avatar.
Okay, wonderful. We'll all be here virtually in 5 years. Nastasia, give us your vision. Where are we going to be in 5 years?
Well, our current Quest goggles are very much focused on gaming, but I believe the future will be more focused on productivity. So I would say in 5 years' time, we will be able to have productive virtual meetings. Currently in our app workrooms, our avatars don't have legs. The reason for that is because it increases you're more forgiving of technological glitches. And I think in 5 years they'll have legs, because our avatars, as you said, will be really realistic. So
Legs is a good thing, but I have a suggestion. Just put them behind these giant podiums and no one will be able to tell if you have legs or not. You can have that one for free. Callan, give us your vision.
Well, I have no idea what it's going to look like in 5 years. I don't think anybody does. I think all the things they've talked about are going to improve and get better. Interoperability will get better. But I think it's going to be more of an evolution. Think about the last 15 years or so that we've lived with smartphones. Did we really notice how day after day we got increasingly more dependent on that smartphone to navigate, to entertain, to keep track of our kids, to find the restaurant? It wasn't like one day we woke up and we were in the metaverse of smartphones. It evolved over time. We're already in the metaverse today. It's just going to continue to evolve. There may be a discontinuity. It may be something, Markus, like you're talking about, like the unobtrusive wearable VR thing that hasn't happened yet. But I think it's going to be really exciting to see what it's going to be.
I love the cell phone analogy, and I'm going to ask you to take it a step further. If we're in the metaverse right now, like what model cell phone? Am I on like an old Nokia brick? Is it the first iPhone? Where are we?
iPhone 7.
iPhone 7. That was a quick answer. I love it. Last word to you, Julia. Where are we going to be in 5 years? Excuse me.
It's actually a transition from what you guys said. Like, I think like in 5 years it's going to be exactly the same. We're going to be exactly like us. Hopefully us will be at this stage. And still so fabulous and healthy and wonderful. However, instead of all of you guys looking at your phones, we're gonna have glasses, right? Like, and the VR headsets or AR headsets are gonna become our phones, that are not as clunky, but they are there in our everyday lives. It's just our focus will not be on the brick, but in the glasses.
Okay. Focus in the glasses, not on the brick. I think that's a nice place to leave it. Guys, thank you for joining me today. I know when we talk about the metaverse, it requires a bit of imagination, but speaking to you, I have full faith that if you're the people who are going to build it, I want to be part of it. I am looking forward to putting on that headset if and when it's ready, hopefully in 5 years, for our next panel discussion. A big round of applause for our panelists. Thank you so much.